Good morning. My name is Jacqueline McGowan. I'm the compliance specialist for the Office of School Nutrition. And just one small fact about me, the introvert in me is terrified of giving presentations, even over the internet or over virtually. But it is a pleasure to be with you this morning. I want to welcome you to our Determining Free and Reduced Price Meal Eligibility webinar for school year 23-24. Today's webinar is based on information written in the Eligibility Manual for School Meals, Determining and Verifying Eligibility, which is dated July 18th, 2017, and you'll see that in the lower right-hand corner. And we're going to talk about best practices that we have also seen over the last several years in the school nutrition program. This webinar is being recorded and is designed to assist the eligibility determination official to process free and reduced price school meal applications. So if you are an SFA that does not process free and reduced applications, which means you're 100% CEP, or you are an RCCI without day students, or you're a charter school that is CEP, then you are not required to participate in this webinar. Just so you'll know, we will not be taking questions during this presentation. However, if there are questions, please send them to me by email or reach out to your school nutrition consultant. Just be mindful that this webinar is allotted for a 2-hour time frame. There are 3 sections of this webinar. The first is an overview of the policy statement. The second is the basis of eligibility. And this third is establishing eligibility. Now, there will be some repetitiveness in this presentation, but we just want to make sure that you understand the information clearly. Lastly, this is the last announcement before we get started. All CEUs will be issued for your participation in this webinar. A QR code and a link will be provided at the end of this presentation for you to access your evaluation and generate your certificate. And this is the last announcement. Please note that the words SFA and LEA will be used interchangeably throughout the presentation. All right, let's get started. The 2 resource references to use when determining eligibility is the current income eligibility guidelines, which are released by the U.S. government annually, and the most current eligibility manual, which I referenced earlier. It has the little timestamp of July 2017 in the lower right-hand corner. So we ask that you, whenever you're doing eligibility, even when you're doing verification, you can use this as your source document when determining the decisions that you have to make related to the free and reduced application process. If you do not have a hard copy of the book, you can find a electronic copy at the link that's provided on this slide. As with all federal programs, we have a foundation of laws or statutory authority that we reference. For the school nutrition program, it includes the Richard B. Russell National School Lunch Act. A lot of times people may ask, well, why do we do what we do? Well, if you are a student of law or a student of legal processes, then you would read through these various codes of federal regulations to determine why we do what we do. This is the foundation of our program. The free and reduced price policy statement is included in the annual written agreement. The media release is sent out by NCDPI on behalf of the SFA to sources in North Carolina, and it contains information that replicates the letter to the households. In addition to the required notification at the beginning of the school year, you all are welcomed and encouraged to also share information about the availability of school meals and routine contacts throughout the school year. Thankfully, the majority of the free and reduced price school meal application packets have been approved by the state agency. So to use our time wisely, we will not go over the specific packet, but we will highlight some things related to the application packet. The packet, when we talk about the free and reduced application packet, it includes the application, which has instructions on the form. It includes the letter to the household, which contains question and answers, the direct certification notification letters, the notification of benefit letters, the verification selection letters, and also the verification response letters. And then we also have the optional forms that allow information to be shared with other programs. As an SFA that receives federal funding, the SFA must make free and reduced meal benefits available to every enrolled child in your district and/or your school in accordance with the statutory and regulatory requirements of the National School Meals Program. Now, how you facilitate that process is up to you. For some examples, maybe sending it home in the back to school packet at the beginning of the school year, or ensuring that the youngest student in the household has the application. And also, if you do electronic applications, you want to be able to provide a notice to your parents in some manner or another that they can apply for the application by using a paper application, because we know that everyone does not have access to a computer. Other reminders: only one household application is required per family. Families may not be required. It cannot be mandated that a household or that everyone in a classroom or in a school fill out a free and reduced application. Again, you cannot mandate that. I know we've heard of, for example, if everyone in a certain school or a certain hallway or whatever the case may be fills out a free and reduced application, they get a pizza party or something like that. But you cannot mandate that they complete the free and reduced application, and that's found in guidance. A couple of more things about the application itself: it must be clear and simple in design. It has to conform to federal requirements, and it must be approved by the state agency. If you have a free and reduced application and it has not yet been approved, then I ask that you reach out to me so that we can get that done as quickly as possible. And lastly, that you are required to have a no-charge telephone number where you can be reached at the SFA in case a parent needs to reach you. I know everybody has cell phones, or most people have cell phones, but you do want to make sure that there is a no-charge telephone number available for your households. Some questions that we often receive is, when can I distribute letters and applications? You cannot distribute the free and reduced applications or letters any earlier than the beginning of the school year, and that would be the start prior to the start of the school year. Normally, for the majority of North Carolina schools, that's somewhere from the 1st of July to the middle of July. For SFAs that have year-round schools, you may distribute the applications in June. But please know that free and reduced applications cannot be sent home or processed prior to the beginning of the new school year. So for example, if school starts on August 26th, then the application should be distributed around the middle to the end of July. This way, the household signs the application after July 1st. And the reason for this is you want to get the most current income or other source categorical information from the household. Again, this applies unless you have a year-round school. Each household must be informed about the free and reduced price school meals application. The letter must state that a household may apply for benefits at any time during the school year, and that no application is necessary if the household was notified by the SFA that all children have been directly certified. The directly certified letter also informs the household that if they are not sure that all children in the household have been directly certified, then they should contact the school. The letter must contain the most current and the correct non-discrimination statement. So what you want to do is check the USDA website. The most recent statement is published as of December the 9th, 2022. So if you pull up the link on this slide, or if you just type into the browser USDA non-discrimination statement FNS, then you will be able to have the most recent non-discrimination statement. And for all of those who are wondering, no, we have not received the new civil rights posters yet. But as soon as we receive them, we will notify you and start sending those out. Just a reminder that U.S. citizenship or immigration status is not a condition of eligibility for free or reduced price benefits. SFAs must apply the same eligibility criteria for citizens and non-citizens alike. For those who have questions about the foreign language translations, applications, you are encouraged to be familiar with the languages that are spoken within your districts and your schools. USDA provides an I Speak survey to help identify limited English proficient LEP families and their language needs, and you can refer to the USDA website that's noted on this slide. Non-English letters and applications must be available when a significant number of the population needs info in a language other than English. USDA has not defined significant number, therefore we ask that you use your professional judgment as to when to use foreign language translation applications. There are a number of non-English translation free and reduced applications on the FNS website for your use. You may also use the help of your LEP or ESL translators. We want to make sure that they're certified, that's encouraged, in assisting with meal benefit applications and to provide the necessary services to parents who are unable to read or have limited literacy skills. Families should not be expected to rely on family members to translate or provide interpreting services. So we ask that you use your most reliable resource available. For those who, in addition to paper applications, use electronic and scan applications, you want to, I'm sorry, you can, in addition to paper applications, SFAs may use electronic and scan applications. When you use that type of application, you want to make sure all disclosure restrictions have been met. You want to make sure that if you use an electronic system, that the letter to the household informs households how to access the system in order to apply for benefits. It must also explain that the household has the option to submit a paper application and must indicate how they can obtain that paper application. So you want to not just assume everybody can do electronic and scan, but you also want to make sure they know they can access paper applications. The process for scanning applications must meet all requirements as well as perform functions as outlined in the eligibility manual. So when you're using electronic applications, the system must include a question or data field to indicate a child's Head Start, migrant, runaway, foster, or homeless status. The system may ask for a student's identification number, their household address, their grade, or their birth date. However, the household must be informed that these data fields are not required by NSLP, the school breakfast program, or a special milk program if we have anyone on here for that specific program. The SFA is encouraged to amend the electronic application to reflect the FNS prototype application. And if modifications are made, the system must be able to recognize and accept whole dollar amounts. Now, even in saying that, please note that the USDA, FNS, nor the state agency, we do not evaluate, recommend, approve, or endorse any software used for certification or verification purposes. There are no federal specifications for software vendors, but you are responsible for assuring that any automated certification and verification processes meet all regulatory requirements and policies, including the calculation of income frequencies, and that your software that you're paying money for to use for this service is performing correctly and meets all requirements. So let's move on and talk about the application processing time frame. Once you receive new free and reduced applications for the new school year, you must process the applications immediately, but no later than 10 operating days. We recommend that you date stamp each application as it is received into your office to document when the application is received. Remember, all applications are processed at face value, which means you are accepting the information on the application is true and complete, and you process without further data. And I'm going to tell you what the word complete means in this process. If it's missing data, you should contact the family to obtain it. If you have reason to suspect the information on the application is inaccurate, then you may verify for calls after the application has been processed. And you may begin the process to verify for calls on the same date that you determine eligibility. But you cannot delay approval of applications if the household fails to provide any information that is not required. So a little bit further in this presentation, we're going to talk about what is a complete application and what is an incomplete application. The determining official must sign or initial and date each application, or they can sign a cover sheet with a batch of applications. Um, the way that you all do this process is up to you. You just want to make sure that it's consistent across all the applications if you're doing paper applications. There are prototype applications that captures the data that you can write right on the application itself. You can make a notation in an electronic file, or there may be computer systems and softwares that captures the original date of approval and the basis for determination. So whatever your method is, just make sure that you can determine who processed the application and that is dated, that is initial or dated and signed. Let's talk about what is a complete application. An application for free or reduced price benefits cannot be approved unless complete eligibility information is submitted as indicated on the application and in the instructions. So what is a complete application? It has the names of all household members. It has the last four digits of the adult who signs the application, or there is a notation that there is no social security number. Income is identified for each household member, or they indicate zero, or if it's blank, the assumption is that it's zero and the application has been signed. So that's what we consider to be a complete application. Once you receive free and reduced applications and determine that they are complete with all required items, you must process them as quickly as possible to approve or deny eligibility. Now, if the application is incomplete, you may contact the family by phone or in writing to obtain the missing information. You want to document the details of the contact directly on the application, the date of the contact, the initials of the person who made the contact, who did you speak to? It should be an adult household member, preferably the one who signed the application, and then you can process the application. This may be done for all missing information except the adult signature. So if they do everything, let's say they submit an incomplete application, you call them and you get the information that you need or that's missing, you indicate the contact that you made and you document the conversation, then you can go ahead and process that application if it's complete. However, if the application is missing the signature, then you have to ask them to come by the office to sign it, or you have to return it so that they can sign the free and reduced application. Every reasonable effort should be made to obtain the missing information. For assistance programs, categorical eligibility for free benefits is extended to all children in a household when the application lists a valid assistance program case number for any household member. This does not apply to other source categorical eligibility applications. For example, and we'll talk about this in detail as we go through the presentation, but if one student is a migrant student, the eligibility does not extend to everyone on the application. And remember, it is the responsibility of the determining official to become familiar with the county case numbers that are specific to your county or for your area. And just a quick note, EBT cards, which are generally 16 digits, they are not considered case numbers. So now that we have recapped the letter to the household and we talked about just some general information about the application, we're going to start talking about the basis of eligibility. In this section, you will find information to determine the household composition. How do we determine what that is? The income, how do we determine what is income and what's excluded as income? Categorical eligibility based on participation in an assistance program, and then categorical eligibility through an other source, categorical eligibility designation. In order to claim federal reimbursement for student meals, the SFA must have either an eligibility income application or a categorical eligible application. They have to have a list of directly certified students, a list of migrant, homeless, or runaway students, a list of federally funded Head Start students, or an indication that it is a foster child on the application itself, or an emergency application filed on behalf of the student. And this is generally done by the principal in hardship household situations and on special occasions only. So we're going to talk about these are the only ways that you can have reimbursement for an application, or I'm sorry, this is the only way that you can receive federal reimbursement if you have things that fall under these headings. Two factors determine income eligibility. So that's our first pocket of applications, income applications, and you're going to be looking at the household size and the household income. To establish a household, that a household meets income eligibility requirements, the determining official must compare the size of the household to the total household gross income and apply it to the applicable income eligibility guidelines, which is listed on this slide. It would seem like a rather simple process, but you'd be surprised how easy it is to kind of get thrown off in this particular area. So we'll talk about it a little bit more in detail. Household composition for the purpose of making an eligibility determination for free and reduced price benefits is based on an economic unit. So you may say, well, what is an economic unit? It is a group of related or unrelated individuals who are not residents of an institution or a boarding house, but who are living as one economic unit and whose members share housing, significant income, and expenses. Generally, individuals residing in the same house are an economic unit. However, there can be times when more than one economic unit may reside together in the same house. Separate economic units in the same house are characterized by prorating expenses and by economic independence from one another. So we talked about the makeup of a household composition. Let's look at some of the special situations for determining those household compositions. For example, a child who is adopted, in which a household has accepted legal responsibility, is considered to be a member of that household. If the household receives assistance payments or a subsidy for the adoption, the assistance payments or the subsidy are included as income. Another example can be a child who attends but does not reside in an institution or an RCCI. That child is considered to be a member of the household in which the child is a resident. Another example can be a child who is a resident of a non-participating institution and they attend a participating school during the week, or a child who resides in a participating RCCI is considered a household of one. Another example can be a child, and this includes a foreign exchange student who is attending away temporarily, participating in a boarding school, who applies for meal benefits is also considered a member of the parents or the guardian's household. Therefore, eligibility is determined based on the family size and income. This particular child in this situation is not considered to be a household of one. When joint custody has been awarded and the child physically changes residences, then the child is considered part of the household where the child resides. If both guardians apply for benefits for the child in the same LEA, but the eligibility status is different, the greater benefit level is used. For example, if one caretaker's situation results in an eligibility for free meals, but the other caretaker's application is denied, the child will receive free meals regardless of which parent has custody at the time. Now, here's the caveat. However, if one of the caretakers may elect not to have the child receive free or reduced price meal benefits while residing with them, when the child is residing with that particular caretaker and the caretaker pays for meals, the child must be claimed at the paid rate. So now you see why we're talking about the different household compositions. Another situation can be a child living alone or as a separate economic unit. That child is considered to be a household of one. If an emancipated child lives alone as a household of one or as a member of a household with no adult members, no adult household members, then the emancipated child must sign the application. No portion of the child's Social Security number is required on that application. For separate economic units that are characterized by prorating of most household expenses, most children living within a household and paying for room and board are usually paying a token amount and are not economically independent of the household and are therefore not considered to be a household of one and are included in the larger household for purposes of eligibility. So that's for the child who's paying room and board, but because they're not completely independent of the household, then they're considered a part of the larger household. Another example can be a foreign exchange student who's considered to be a member of the household or the host household in which the foreign exchange student resides. Another example can be a foster child. A foster child is a child whose care and placement is the responsibility of an agency that administers a state plan under Part B or E of Title IV of the Social Security Act, or a child who is formally placed with a relative or other caretaker household by a court or state child welfare agency. So that's the difference with the foster child. They have to their placement must be a part of a court order and through a state agency. Now, I'm taking care of my nephew, but it's not state ordered, then that's not a foster child. Just for your personal knowledge. As a reminder, once the child is legally adopted, they are no longer considered foster. And for purposes of eligibility for school nutrition programs, a foster child is considered a member of the foster parent's household. Again, if they're placed through a formal arrangement by a court or state child welfare agency. And we'll talk about this a little bit further in the presentation, but a foster child is categorically eligible for free meals. They may be included as a member of the foster family if the foster family chooses to also apply for benefits for other children. And just know that including that child may help the other children on the household application to qualify for benefits. Another household composition can be family members who are living apart on a temporary basis. Even if it's temporary, then they're considered household members. Family members who are not living with the household for an extended period are not considered members of the household for purpose of determining eligibility. So I would hear that the natural question would be, how do you define temporary and how you define extended period? In this particular case, and we ask that you use professional judgment. And if you still have questions, then feel free to reach out to the state agency. Members of the armed services who are activated or deployed in support of any military combat operations, they are counted as household members. All right, so now that we have figured out what household compositions look like, now we're going to talk about household income. Income is defined as any money before deductions received on a recurring basis, including earnings, pensions, child or spousal support, unless it is specifically excluded by law for school nutrition programs. And we'll talk about some of the exclusions in a couple of minutes. We're looking at the gross income, which means all money earned before deductions such as income taxes and insurance premiums. And current income is the gross income received by a household before deductions for the current month or the amount projected for the first month for which the application is filled out or for the month prior to the application. So within about a month's time is considered current income. If this income is higher or lower than usual and does not fairly or accurately represent the household's actual circumstances, then the household may, in conjunction with the determined official, project its annual rate of income based on the guidelines for special situations. Each household must provide the total amount of current gross income. The prototype application requires that all income figures be reported in whole dollars only. Income earned or received by adults and enrolled students in North Carolina must be identified with the individual who received it and the source, such as wages or Social Security. Just to repeat this once again, or just to, for clarity purposes, each household member who does not have income should be identified, because you want to get the more household members you have versus against the income itself, the better. Household members must be asked to report their status as zero income earners. So when you're looking at a household application, you should see a dollar amount. You should see, or you can see zero. Now, if you see that it is blank, when there is no income provided for an adult household member, the application is still considered complete. Now, there was a time, maybe several years back, where um, the assumption was not that it was blank because the is zero. There was another assumption. But if it's blank, take it at face value that there is no income and consider the application complete. Now, if you are a local official who has knowledge or available information that a household has intentionally misreported its income by leaving the income fields blank, then the SFA must verify the household application for cause. And when we get to verification, then we'll talk about that in more detail. And that webinar will be sometime at the end of September. But again, if it's it should be one of three things: a dollar amount listed, zero listed, or is blank, and the assumption is there is no income for that particular household member, and this application is considered complete and we move it forward. Now we're going to discuss determine household reportable income by category and description. There are two factors that determine income eligibility when we're looking at income applications: the household size and the household income. The eligibility manual for school meals provides specific guidance in these two areas. USDA, again, provided an updated income eligibility guidance, so you should have that already printed, laminated, and posted on your wall. Households from different may have different incomes from different sources. If all income is submitted in the same frequency, then that's how you would look at that income. That's how you would compare it against the income eligibility guidelines. But if there are multiple incomes with more than one frequency, then you want to annualize the income by multiplying weekly income by 52, biweekly income by 26, semi-monthly, and that's semi-monthly is the 1st and the 15th, or the 15th and the 30th, by 24, and then monthly by 12. Remember, do not round values that result from each conversion. Instead, add all converted income together and then compare the total to the annual eligibility chart. So how do we define wages? And we'll just go through this really quickly. Wages can be net income, it can be bonuses, commissions, tips, unemployment compensation, workers' compensation. It can be military base pay, cash bonuses. These are all considered income as it relates to the income applications. It can also be employment benefits, workers' compensation, alimony, child support, veterans benefits, pensions. Sometimes we get questions about the incomes that are excluded. And if you check page 30 of the eligibility manual for school meals, you're going to see a specific list of income that is excluded. If the income that you're looking at is not on that list, then it should be included as income on the household application. Such things as, I think we talked about pensions, disability benefits. We talked about adoption assistance payments, annuities, investment income, earned interest, net rental income, cash payments that are regular from outside of the household. All of these are considered income and must be reported in the increment that it is received. And again, if you have an application and the household tells you, I believe that this, or I don't report this on my taxes, or I believe that this income is excluded, Sometimes for the purpose of taxes, it may not be included as income, but for the purpose of the income application, it's still considered income. So if you have special situations, first check page 30 of the eligibility manual for school meals and see if it's listed there. If you're still not sure, then give us a call at the state agency so we can help you work through it. Now we're going to talk about how the household needs to report income. Certain workers, such as seasonal workers, experience income fluctuations throughout the year, meaning they earn more money in some months than in other months. For these workers, reporting the previous month income may distort the household's actual financial circumstances. In these situations, the household may project its annual rate of income and report this amount as its current income. If the prior year's income provides an accurate reflection of the household's current annual rate of income, then the prior year may be used as a basis for the projected annual rate of income. Now, these are special situations, so you wouldn't expect for someone who is currently working to bring you their annual pay from last year and you use that. No, if it's a person who's currently working, they're a regular worker, then you use what they provide within the month's time. But for a seasonal worker, the situation is a little bit different. The LEA must determine the period of time any earnings are received for seasonal workers as well as the amount and the source. Seasonal workers with annual employment contracts, such as school employees, may choose to have their salaries paid over a shorter period of time to treat these employees in the same manner as employees who choose to have their salaries paid over the full year. The LEA must determine the full amount of income available contractually on an annual basis and convert all income sources to annual amounts. For someone who is self-employed, they may use last year's income as a basis to project their current year's net income, unless their current net income provides a more accurate measure. So again, we're still talking about special situations. Self-employed persons are credited with net income, and they're the only ones rather than gross income. And if you want to read a little bit more detail on that, it's on page 27 and 28 of the eligibility manual. But this is going to give you a little bit more information on self-employment and the deductive expenses such as non-deductible expenses of gas receipts and operating expenses. For a household with income from wages and self-employment, each amount must be listed separately. When a household experiences a business loss, income from wages must not be reduced by the amount of the business loss. If income from self-employment is negative, it is listed as zero. Another special situation can be a household with rental properties. The income includes money derived from the rental of rooms, apartments, homes, or other leases. The treatment of rental income would be similar to the treatment of self-employment income. Here's a couple of more special situations. Because we are a state with a lot of military bases and cities, then we may have households that receive military benefits. For non-deployed service members, income includes benefits paid directly to the service member, such as food, clothing, and housing allowances for households living off base in the general commercial or private real estate market. All of that is considered income. For deployed service members, income only includes the portion of a deployed service member's income that's made available by them or on their behalf to the household. That's the only amount that's counted as income. If a household where a foster child resides applies for benefits for their non-foster children, the foster child may be included as a household member, and any personal income that that child receives is reportable. The foster child's income can be, for example, from a part-time job held by the child or any funds provided to the child for the child's personal use. In three more scenarios is all money or any money received by a household in the form of alimony or child support is considered income to the receiving household. Money paid by a household in the form of alimony is not excluded as income for that household. Infrequent earnings, such as income from like occasional activities, such as babysitting or mowing lawns, they're not consistent enough, they're not regular enough, and so they are not counted as income and should not be listed on the application. So as I mentioned, we'll talk about income exclusions. Um, Please note that I just realized this on page 30, there are some income exclusions, and then there is a link for you to click on to go even further to see if it's possible that the income you're looking at should be excluded. Unless a source of income is specifically listed as excluded by the Social Security Act or appendix to Subpart K, again, it should be included as income on the household application. So unless it's on that list in the page 30 or on the link that's located in the eligibility guidelines, if it's not on either one of those places, then it should be included as income. Some of the exclusions is any cash income or value of benefits excluded by statute, such as the value of benefits under FNS SNAP or FDPIR and some federal educational benefits, payments received from a foster care agency or court for the care of foster children, student financial assistance that's provided for the cost of attendance at an educational institution, such as grants or a scholarship, because that's intended to meet their educational expense, not available to pay for meals. Loans, such as bank loans, since these funds are only temporary and must be repaid. And then again, the infrequent earnings received on an irregular basis, such as payments for occasional babysitting or yard work. So these are all the things that should not be included as income on an application. And I will say this one more time for those who are writing or who are listening. Page 30 has the income exclusions, and then it also has a link where you can dive a little bit deeper as far as what that includes. Now that we have discussed income situations, let's discuss determining categorical eligibility using an application. This section describes applications for children who are automatically eligible for free meals because they or another member of their household receive assistance program benefits, or because they are determined eligible through an other source categorical eligible designation. In general, categorical eligibility may be established through the application process or through the direct selection process. A child who is a member of a household that received benefits from an assistance program, such as FNS, Work First, TANF, FDPIR, is categorically eligible for free meals, and the categorical eligibility of any household member in an assistance program conveys free meal benefits through the school nutrition program to all children in that household. SFAs are required to use direct certification to identify children who are receiving benefits. Households receiving benefits under assistance programs and submitting a free and reduced application must list a case number on the application. If you are a determined official, you want to ensure that the assistance program case number or the identifier listed on the application is consistent with the format used by the assistance program in your state, in your county, in your area. If the case number seems incorrect, the SFA should contact the household or the local assistance program to confirm the household's eligibility or verify the application for cause. SFAs are encouraged to review the direct certification list to determine whether any of the applications with case numbers can be matched with children on the DC list. When a household submits an application indicating assistance program, the applicable program must be indicated and the case number has to be listed and also should be linked to an assistance program. The child must be given free meals and the LEA officials should compare the application with case numbers to the DC list to determine if any children listed on the application are on that list. If yes, the eligibility must be switched to DC, and then this type of application should be kept in an inactive file. Similar to assistance programs, children can be designated as other source categorically eligible. They can be determined eligible for free meals through the application process. This is the difference with other source categorically eligible program participants. This eligibility benefit status is not extended to anyone in the household but the child that is in that specific program. Again, other source categorical eligibility of one child does not convey free meal benefits to other children in the household. The LEA official must contact the agency liaison to confirm that the children are eligible for one of the programs. FNS recommends that LEAs confirm contact information for the agency liaison and establish a relationship at the beginning of each school year. In a special situation, if the household submits an application with income and also indicates other source categorical eligibility for one or more children, the LEA must first confirm the children's status before meal benefits can be provided. If the household submits an application and then both indicating both income and other source categorical eligibility, and the LEA cannot confirm the child's status, then the LEA must process the application as an income application. If other source categorical eligibility is documented for all children in the household, the determination based on income is overridden. However, if some children in the household are not determined other source categorical eligible, the income determination remains in effect for those children. So these are mixed applications as far as other source categorical eligibility and income on the same application. Direct certification allows LEAs to certify children as eligible for free meal benefits using participant data from other means tested programs, eliminating the need for an application. The direct certification process uses information provided by state or local agencies administering assistance programs and other source categorical eligible programs. Eligibility for free meals is extended to all children in a household if any member of the household receives assistance program benefits, which is FNS, SNAP, Work First, TANF, FDPIR. LEAs are encouraged to take appropriate steps to identify children who are part of a household receiving benefits, but were not identified through the direct certification process. For example, an SFA may review school district enrollment records or reference submitted meal benefit applications to find potential matches that were missed through the direct certification process. When you have a case number application submitted and it's a match, the application must be disregarded. We just encourage you to put it in an inactive file. The family must be placed on the DC list, and categorical eligibility must be extended to all children in the household. When a match is not found, the SFA should contact the household for further clarification or verify the application for cause. Now let's look at an in-depth information about other source categorical eligibility. So we're going to break down what that means, which apply to migrant, runaway, homeless, and foster children. Children enrolled in Head Start or enrolled in the eligible pre-kindergarten program with eligibility criteria identical to or more stringent than federal Head Start are also categorically eligible for free meals. Again, remember state-funded programs do not use the same income eligibility requirements. Therefore, free and reduced school meal applications must be submitted for these students. When we're talking about other source categorical eligibility, the following are acceptable methods for identifying these students. The household application that indicates other source categorical eligibility, which means it's marked on the application. A form letter from an agency of one of the other source categorical eligibility columns, which in turn the household provides to the school. It can be a signed and dated list of eligible children exchanged between the other source categorical eligible officials and the LEA, for example, like a homeless student list, a list of other source categorically eligible children compiled by the LEA and submitted to the determining official, or completion of an application by a local school official with direct knowledge of the child's status. So let's talk about the migrant education program. A child is considered other source categorically eligible based on the migrant education program if the child is identified as meeting the definition of migrant in Section 1309 of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965 by the state, regionally, or the local MEP director, coordinator, or local educational liaison. The MEP provides services to children who have moved across school district lines within the last 3 years in order to accompany or join a parent or guardian who seeks or obtains temporary or seasonal work in agriculture or fishing. Minors who move with a spouse or by themselves to perform this work may also qualify. So acceptable documentation for MEP participation includes a list of names of participating children, the effective dates, and the signature of an MEP official, or it can be a letter from an MEP official provided by the household to the school which confirms the child participates in the MEP. So the first other source categorical eligibility determination is for the migrant student. The next one is for runaway and homeless students. The Runaway and Homeless Youth Act was established by the Family and Youth Services Bureau of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and provides temporary housing, transitional living, and street outreach programs for runaway, homeless, and human trafficked youth. Acceptable documentation for the RHYA participation includes a list of names of participating children with effective dates and the signature of an RHYA official, or it can be a letter from an RHYA official or a homeless liaison provided by the household to the school, which confirms that the child currently participates in the RHYA program. So that's the second category. The third category is the homeless student. The McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act provides federal money for homeless shelter programs and facilitates public school access for homeless children and youth. According to the Act, a student is considered homeless if they are identified as lacking a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime resident by the LEA liaison, or if they are identified as residing in a homeless shelter by an official of the shelter. The circumstances that may qualify children as homeless include sharing the housing of other persons due to loss of housing, economic hardship, or a similar reason, living in hotels or motels, camping grounds, emergency shelters, awaiting foster care placement, having a primary nighttime resident that is a public or private place that's not designed for normal human being regular sleeping accommodations, a child who lives in a car, a park, a public space, abandoned buildings, substandard housing, bus, train stations, or similar settings. Acceptable documentation for this student would be a list of names of homeless children, effective dates, and the signature of a homeless liaison, or it can be a letter from a RHYA or homeless liaison provided by the household to the student. So as you can see, it's consistent as far as there are multiple ways to determine whether or not a child qualifies for the other source categorical eligibility status. The last one is children experiencing homelessness due to a disaster. Children determined to be homeless due to a disaster are categorically eligible for free meals in the school nutrition program. In this situation, the homeless liaison makes a determination of homelessness and provides to the LEA a list of all children determined homeless due to the disaster. And if you want to read further on this, you can look at SP 46-2014, which is a disaster response memo. Our foster children, a foster child is a child whose care and placement is the responsibility of a state or local welfare agency or who is placed by a court with a caretaker household. A child may still be considered a foster child if placed with relatives, provided the placement again is made by the state or the local foster care system or courts. The state must retain legal custody of the child, whether placed by a welfare agency or a court, in order for a child to be considered categorically eligible for free meals. A foster family may include their foster child on the same application that includes their non-foster children. The benefit is not extended, but having the foster child on the application may help increase the number of household members and also help the other children qualify for benefits. Acceptable documentation for a foster child would be an electronic or computer match directly to the SFA indicating the status of the child as a foster child without further application. It can be a letter from the state or local welfare agency confirming the child's status, a document from the welfare agency stating that the courts have taken legal custody and the child is in foster care system, a list of children in a foster care from the welfare agency, or it can be an application that indicates the child's status as a foster child. Now remember, if an application is marked foster in North Carolina, it is taken at face value and it is included in the pool of applications that may be selected for verification. Then, if the application is selected for verification, then the household would have to prove the student is court appointed or a ward of the state. So if you're looking at an application and it indicates the child is a foster child, as you're processing that at face value. Now, and you don't need to call anybody, you don't need to look for the list, but if it marks foster child on the application, you process it at face value, that application becomes a part of the potential verification pool. And then if you pull that application for verification, then you would look further into whether or not there's documentation that the child is court appointed or awarded the state. As we move away from other source categorical eligibility, we're going to talk about households that fail to apply. When there are students in your school system that are known to be eligible, but the family refuses to cooperate in the application process for whatever reason, someone in an official capacity who has knowledge of the family's economic need or situation may apply on behalf of the child's family. Now, at the bottom of this slide and at the top of this slide, it says emergency situations only. So that means that you can't have a principal who just brings in applications, 5 applications, and says, I want this is a special situation. It has to be a legitimate special situation or an emergency situation rather. The application, when submitted, will cover all children in the family. Again, this is for limited use. There should be extenuating circumstances that would prevent the family from completing the application for themselves. Either they're unable or they won't cooperate in completing the application. It is extremely important to remember that the household must be notified of the benefits, and the application must contain documentation of the special emergency circumstance, the best known reason the child is eligible, um, why the why is the official applying for the family. It should have the children's name, schools, grades, addresses, and the signature of the school official completing the application. When a local official completes the free and reduced application on behalf of students, the names of all household members, social security numbers, and an adult signature are not required. However, the official completing the application should sign the application as well as completely document the situation so that we can know why it was considered an emergency. Also, these applications are not required to be verified, so make sure you separate them from your verification pool. And lastly, even though the application is being completed and submitted by the school official, the family must be notified that someone has applied for their for benefits for their child or their children along on their behalf along with the benefit status. All right, you all have been so gracious and hanging in there with me on this presentation. We're going to take a 5-minute break, so I encourage you to get up and stretch, walk around, get some water, and we'll start back in 5 minutes. All right, it has been actually 6 minutes. Donna, are we ready to start again?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, well, let's get started. Welcome back. Um, I'm hopeful that you've learned something during the first half, and then we're going to go through the final half of establishing eligibility. So we'll get started again. All right. So let's talk about establishing eligibility. What is carryover? It is a time period for up to 30 operating days. So we're in the carryover period now for those who have started school. Up to 30 operating days into the new school year in which eligibility from the previous year will continue within the same LEA. When the carryover period ends, unless the household is notified that the children are directly certified or the household submits an application that is approved, the children must pay full price for school meals and the LEA is not required to send a reminder or a notice of expired eligibility. The 30-day carryover period does not delay processing applications. SFAs still have 10 days to process applications once they are submitted. For example, you have an application that you process on the first day of school. Last year, the student was DC, and you just happen to know this household. But through the application process this year, the student submits an application is processed as reduced. You may not delay notifying the household of the status once the application is processed. It overrides the 30-day carryover period. Now, while you're not required to issue a notification about the carryover period, school officials are encouraged, especially after a school year of all students receiving meals at no cost to the household. It's important for you to clarify that the carryover period will end after 30 operating days. School officials should inform affected families that they must submit a new application for meal benefits to reestablish their child's eligibility before the end of the carryover period. So it's up to 30 days or when that application is processed. So it's or up to 30 days or once a determination has been made from an application. Carryover of eligibility within the LEA is mandatory, whether a child is continuing in the same school or will attend a different school within the same LEA. The LEA may not have a carryover period of less than 30 operating days unless a new eligibility determination is made. When a student moves to a new school within an LEA, the LEA must carry over eligibility for free or reduced price benefits for children with approved applications on file from the previous year, children who are newly enrolled in the LEA but who reside in a household where another child has an approved application from the previous year, a child who is directly certified for free meal benefits in the previous year, or a child who is newly enrolled in the LEA but who resides in a household where another child was approved through the DC process with an assistance program in the previous year. Carryover eligibility again is mandatory whether a child is continuing in the same school or will attend a different school. Children determined other source categorically eligible for free benefits in the previous school year. Um, Let me back up. Let me rewind. So we just talked about carryover within an SFA. So I'm continuing with the same concept. Children who are determined other source categorical eligible for free benefits, they can also have up to 30 days until their process or until their application is processed, and also children in kindergarten who are enrolled in Head Start under the jurisdiction of the same LEA during the previous school year. So these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ways that the eligibility, it continues within an SFA for up to 30 days or until a new determination is made. When you have carryover between SFAs, which means a child moves from one LEA to another at the beginning of the school year or even during the summer months, the new LEA is encouraged to use the former LEA's eligibility determination from the previous school year and carry over the child's eligibility status. LEAs opting to do this can use the former LEA's eligibility determination for up to 30 days or until a new determination is made, whichever comes first. The new LEA may accept the former LEA's eligibility determination during the carryover period without incurring liability for the accuracy of the determination. And the intent behind this is to allow for the access to meals not to be disrupted when a child moves from one LEA to another. Another type of carryover is one that comes when a student moves from a CEP school to a non-provision school within the same LEA. It's at the state agency's discretion for children to carry over free meal eligibility from the provision school and be offered free reimbursable meals for up to 30 operating days or until a new eligibility determination is made, whichever comes first. And we do allow that in North Carolina. So if a fifth grader last year was in a CEP school and now they attend a middle school that was not CEP, then the status is free for 30 operating days or until an application is processed for a new determination. So that's the carryover period. The transfer of eligibility applies when a child transfers to another school during the school year. So this is just them almost like carrying their eligibility with them. When a child transfers to another school, the date of the transfer must be noted on the application and the point of service must be updated to include the new student's information. If the SFA has an application on file and any change is made after the initial approval for the current school year, the determined official must note the change, write the date of the change on the application, and implement the change by updating rosters or whatever method you use at the point of sale if necessary. Once a child is determined eligible for free or reduced price meals, eligibility remains in effect for the remainder of the school year and for up to 30 operating days into the next school year. When a child transfers to a new school within the same SFA, the new school must accept the eligibility determination from the child's former school if the child has an individual eligibility determination in place. Along those same lines, transferring within an SFA, and we're just going to go over a couple of scenarios over the next couple of slides. The chart on the chart on this slide describes how schools should handle transfer eligibility for children who are transferring from schools using standard counting and claiming to schools that are operating a special provision. If a student is transferring from a non-provision school to another non-provision school, eligibility for free and reduced price meal benefits for children must transfer to the with the child to the new school. That's from non-provision to non-provision. If you have a child transferring within the same SFA from a provision 1, 2, 3, or CEP school to a non-provision school, they must be given free reimbursable meals for up to 10 operating days or until a new eligibility determination is made, whichever comes first. State agencies have discretion to allow SFAs to provide free reimbursable meals for up to 30 days or until a new eligibility determination is made, whichever comes first. Other scenarios, when a student transfers to a new LEA and they're coming from a non-provision school to a non-provision school, I feel like I'm duplicating slides, but let's just go with it. Eligibility. So if I'm being repetitive, then excuse me, I may have a duplicate slide. But anyway, eligibility for free and reduced price meal benefits for children from non-provision schools may transfer from the former to the new one. The new school will not incur liability for the accuracy of the former determination. Now, while accepting an eligibility determination from another school is not required, it is a best practice and may ease the student's transition to the new school by ensuring there is no break in meal service. State agencies for the second one, provision 1, 2, or 3, or CEP schools to non-provision schools, we have the discretion to allow SFAs to provide free reimbursable meals for up to 30 operating days or until a new determination is made, whichever comes first. And effective July 1st of 2019, SFAs must provide free reimbursable meals for 10 operating days for a child who transfers from a provision 1, 2, 3, or CEP school to a non-provision school in another SFA. Okay, so we have that. We have the transferring within an SFA, and we have the transferring between SFAs. So I was not repeating myself. That was two different scenarios. So the first scenario is within the same SFA. The second one was from one SFA to a new SFA. All right, moving right along. Now we're going to talk about processing applications. Applications must be reviewed in a timely manner. Whenever possible, applications should be processed immediately and must be processed within 10 operating days. This is particularly important for children who are not eligible to receive carryover benefits because they were not certified as eligible for free or reduced price meal benefits during the previous school year. According to 7 CFR 245.C6CI, within 10 operating days of receipt of the application, an eligibility determination must be made, the family must be notified, and the status must be implemented. The LEA must not delay approval of applications if the household fails to provide any non-essential information. For example, if an application has all the required information, and you may say, what's all the required information? You would refer back to the slides that talks about complete applications, and you'll have a chance to have this PowerPoint once we provide it to you so you can reference it back. But if an application has all of the required information for determining eligibility, but the household, for example, did not include a street address or the child's birth date, processing of the application must not be delayed. As stated at 7 CFR 245.CA1, the information requested in the application should be limited to information required to demonstrate that a household does or does not meet the eligibility criteria for free and reduced price meals. So we talked about the processing timeline. We talked about what a complete application is, why you cannot hold it up. Now we're going to talk quickly about the independent review of applications. The independent review of applications is a requirement in North Carolina. The AR findings associated with benefit issuance have been a little bit less because this is a requirement. So it allows you to complete your due diligence by having a second review of applications. This is crucial because you can a lot of times prevent an error by having a second set of eyes look at the application to determine whether it's complete and whether or not the determination is correct. Let me back up just one thing. The second review must be conducted by an independent individual of or entity that did not make the original determination. This person or entity is not required to be an employee of the LEA, but must be trained on how to make application determinations. A second review of applications or independent review of applications, we'll use that term interchangeably, requires a reevaluation of the eligibility determination made by the original determining official based on the information provided by the household on the application. The second review must determine whether or not the application is complete with the signature of a household member, the last four digits of a social security number or indication that there is none, the name of all household members, including the children for whom the application is made, and the income amount received by each household member, identified by the individual who receives it for income applications. The second reviewer or the independent reviewer must also confirm that the application was correctly approved based on current income eligibility information and that the master list or roster of children's names correctly records their eligibility. In addition, the second review of applications must be done before the household is notified of eligibility and must not result in the delay of an eligibility determination. SFAs conducting a second review of applications must still notify households of the child's eligibility determination within 10 days of receiving the application. So the second review of applications, the independent review of applications, is to your benefit, but you have to do it within the time frame, which is 10 operating days. All right, so let's talk about some approved applications. Households must be notified either in writing or verbally of their eligibility status as approved for free or reduced price benefits. The preferred method in North Carolina is written because confidentiality is a must, but you can also email the notification of the household's approval for meal benefits to the adult household member who signed the application. The determining official must record the eligibility determination as follows: the approval date, the level of benefit for which the child qualifies for each child if the levels are different, and then sign or initial the application. The determined official must again sign, initial, and date each application, or they can sign, initial, and date a cover sheet attached to a batch of applications. How you do this is dependent on the LEA's process. You just want to make sure whatever your procedure is, that you're following that particular procedure. The prototype application has a space for you to indicate that, or you can write it in the margins or on a separate application, a separate piece of paper attached to the application. A computer system can be used to also capture the original date of approval, the basis for the determination, or a notation can be made to an electronic file. Children are eligible for free or reduced price meal benefits on the date of their eligibility, the date that their eligibility is determined. However, flexibility exists to allow SFAs to move the effective date of eligibility back under certain circumstances. As a part of the annual agreement process, you completed an effective date of free or reduced price school meal family application eligibility determination form. So whichever option you chose, option one or option two, then that's how you want to determine whether or not you can move the effective date of eligibility back into what. So whatever you marked on that form, then that's what you want to allow to be a part of your procedure, and that's how you determine um, which date you're going to use for their eligibility. If a household provides an incomplete application or does not meet the eligibility requirement for free or reduced price benefits, the application must be denied. Households with children who are denied benefits must be provided with written notification of the denial. The written notification can be provided by mail or email, and it has to go to the household member who signed the application. The notification of the notification page of an online system does not meet this requirement. So you do have to generate a written response. And LEAs that use automated telephone information systems must also give written notification of the denial. The notification must advise the household for the reason they were denied, that they had the right to appeal, the instructions on how to appeal, and that they can reapply for free or reduced price benefits at any time during this school year. In addition, the determining official must record the eligibility determination and notification in an easily referenced format that includes, again, the denial date, the reason for the denial, the date the notice was sent, and the signature or initials of the determination official. Electronic copy of the notification letter is sufficient so long that it is maintained in a manner that state agency reviewers can access. A notice of denial may not be provided if the household fails to reapply during the carryover period because no eligibility determination was made during the school year, and there is no right to appeal a discontinuation of benefits based on the expiration of the carryover period. So you do not provide a denial letter when the carryover period is done, because you don't get appeals rights for that, and there was actually no determination made. All currently certified households for whom benefits are to be reduced or terminated must be given 10 calendar days written notice of the change prior to the date the change will go into effect. The first day of the advance notice period is the day the notice is sent. The notice of adverse action may be sent via the postal service or to the email address of the parent or guardian. The LEA cannot notify the household of adverse action by phone only. Best practice is always written communication. So the adverse action, notice of adverse action is another part of the free and reduced application packet. For this particular letter, the notice of adverse action, and this is going to be used primarily during the verification period. So, but I'll go ahead and say it includes the change of benefits, the reason for the change, an appeal, the appeal that can be filed within 10 calendar days. It gives them instructions on how to appeal, that the household may reapply for benefits during the school year, and that households that were terminated because no member was receiving benefits may submit an application if they submit it along with household names and income, proof of income. Again, this is an adverse notice of adverse action and is more so used during the verification period. But since it's part of the packet, I wanted to share that with you anyway. Since we referenced the appeals and hearing procedure, please know that a household may appeal either the denial of benefits or the level of benefits for which it has been approved. The household may also request a conference with an appropriate LEA or school food service official prior to a formal hearing. So if they request a conference, it cannot prejudice a later appeal. When that household requests an appeal, the hearing procedures outlined in this LEA's free and reduced price policy statement and in program regulations must be followed. And the hearing official must be an individual who is not connected with the approval or verification process. So let's say you are processing applications and you send home that a student has been denied benefits, then and the household says, well, I don't agree. I would like to appeal the decision or would like to have a conference, then you want to make sure that you have a hearing official in place who's able to follow the guidelines of the eligibility manual to provide the household with their rights for appeal in a hearing. Now, if you want to know what that entails, you can look at 7 CFR 245.7, but let me, and also you look at the eligibility manual, page 57, but let me just give you just like a brief overview. You have to provide the family an LEA, a simple publicly announced method to make an oral or written request for a hearing. It has to be held with reasonable promptness and convenience, which means you can't say we'll do a hearing and we'll meet with you next February. It has to be prompt and reasonable. They have to receive adequate notice of the time and the place of the hearing. You have to provide the family and the LEA an opportunity to present oral and documentary evidence. So it's a very detailed process. So you want to make sure if you have a household that wants to appeal the decision that you made regarding their eligibility, the first thing you want to do is pull up 7 CFR 245.7. You want to look at page 57, and then also you want to get wisdom from your legal counsel so that you can make sure you're following the process correctly. When a household does appeal a reduction or termination of benefits within the 10 calendar day advance notice period, the SFA must continue to provide the benefits for which the child was originally approved until a final determination is made. The SFA may continue to claim reimbursement at that level during this period. Now, there's a household that does not request an appeal during the 10 calendar day advance notice. The benefits must be reduced or terminated no later than 10 operating days after the notice period. If the hearing official rules that the benefits must be reduced, the actual reduction or termination of benefits must take place no later than 10 operating days after the hearing official's decision. Households affected by a reduction or termination may reapply for benefits at any time during the school year. However, if benefits to a household have been terminated because of a failure to complete verification, and this is a repeat of something I just said, if it's during the verification time and they've been terminated during verification, then when they submit another application, they have to along with that application submit income documentation or proof of participation in assistance program at the time of reapplication. And these are not considered new applications. And believe me, when we get to the verification process, we'll talk about this again. Determine eligibility status for special situations. SFAs must have a method in place to process applications from mixed households, which means that some children are other source categorically eligible and some children are not. These applications may result in different eligibility statuses for different children on the same application or from the same household. In mixed households, other source categorically eligible children must receive free benefits, even if the other children listed on the application are determined ineligible or eligible for reduced price benefits. A complete mixed application must provide the name of all household members, the amount, source, and frequency of current income for each household member, an indication of the program source for other source categorical eligibility status, the signature of an adult household member, and the last four digits of the Social Security number or indication that there is none. For our RCCI residents, each child residing in an RCCI is considered a household of one. An application is completed for each child unless the RCCI uses an eligibility determination documentation sheet for all children residing in the RCCI. The documentation sheet must be signed by an appropriate official, and it includes the child's name, personal income received by the child's date of birth, the date of admission, the date of release, the official's title, and the official's contact information. Children attending but not residing in an RCCI, we commonly refer to them as day students, are considered members of their household. Their eligibility is determined using a household application or through direct certification. To be considered complete, an application must include all required information. Any application that is missing required information, contains inconsistent information, or is unclear is considered an incomplete application and should not be processed. The LEA should make reasonable efforts to contact the household in order to obtain or clarify required information. The determining official may not complete the application for the household using information derived from other records available to the school. Any missing information on the application must be provided by the household. So let's repeat this one more time about incomplete applications. Household may submit applications that provide income information in order to establish eligibility for all children in the household. A complete application or income applications has names of all household members, the amount, source, and frequency of income, a signature of a household member, the last four digits of the Social Security number, or an indication that there is none. If you have all of these elements on the application is considered complete. So the application is complete and you're trying to determine whether or not income conversion is required. If there is only one source of income or all the sources are received in the same frequency, you take the sum of all income sources, compare it to the household total income on the income eligibility guidelines. If it's a household of three, only reporting a monthly check, monthly child support, those amounts will be added together and the results compared to the income eligibility monthly category for a household of three. Determining officials determine eligibility when the household submits an application. It depends on the basis for potential eligibility, which may include income, categorical eligibility with case numbers, or other source categorical eligibility without case numbers. The determining official must determine reportable income. Again, if you have questions about what is considered income, you would check your income. You would check your eligibility manual, or you can review the PowerPoint that specifically talks about determining what is an income. Households that submit a complete application indicating total household income at or below the income limits for free or reduced price benefits must be approved for free or reduced price benefits as appropriate. And we're just recapping. Households that submit an incomplete application cannot be approved if required information is missing. Missing information must be obtained before an eligibility determination can be made. Households can provide pay stubs, but if they do not provide the income, the amount of income for each adult, the application is considered complete. So that incomplete. So that would be an application that you would call and ask them to confirm how often, what is the income amount and how often is it received. Applications missing the signature of an adult household member must be returned to the household for a signature. You can ask them to come by, or you can send it home and have them to sign it and send it back. So we talked about income applications. Let's talk about these three categories and whether or not the application is complete. For applications with a case number for an assistance program, a complete application must provide the names of the children, whether or not there is SNAP, FNS, TANF, WorkFirst, FDPIR, case number, or some other type of identifier for the children or any household member listed on the application, and a signature. If you have all three elements, then this application is complete. For other source categorical eligibility applications, you want to have the names of the children for whom the application is made, an indication of their categorical eligibility status, and a signature of a household member. This application is complete. The last one, for foster children, remember foster children are categorically eligible for free meals. An appropriate box or other indication on the application must be checked to identify the child's status. A complete application has the name of the child, an indication of the child's status, and a signature of the adult household member. As a reminder, for any application that has case numbers, you want to make sure it's consistent with the format used by the assistance program in your local area and within our state. If the case number seems incorrect, or if it seems like it may be an EBT card number, then the LEA should contact the household or a local assistance program official to confirm the household's eligibility, or you may verify the application for cause. Determining eligibility for categorically eligible applications. Again, since we're at the beginning of the school year, this is a good time to familiarize yourself with what case numbers look like for your local agency or for our state. You want to make sure that you are familiar with that. You are also encouraged to review the direct certification list to determine whether any of the applications with case numbers can be matched with children on the list. If a match is found, the application is disregarded, placed in an inactive file, and all children in the household are categorically eligible for free meals through the direct certification process. When a match is not found, the LEA should contact the household for further clarification. If the LEA still considers the application to be questionable, the determining official may verify the application for cause. Unlike categorical eligibility under assistance programs, which extends eligibility to all children in the household, other source categorical eligibility must be determined individually for each child. When the LEA receives an application with any other source categorical eligibility categories checked, an appropriate program official must confirm the status of each child either through direct contact with the agency. You can use the list that you receive from one of your liaisons in the district, and you do that prior to providing benefits. Foster children, again, do not require confirmation of eligibility status prior to receiving benefits. However, if you were to pull that application when we get to the verification season, then you would look to make sure that they are actually wards of the state. All right, so we are coming around the bend. This section provides guidance on direct certification for assistance programs, other source categorical eligible children such as homeless children identified by the LEA's homeless liaison are processed using procedures similar to direct certification. So as we are starting a new school year in North Carolina, all SFAs with power school numbers can match daily. It is encouraged that you do it as much as possible. It is required to do a minimum of 3 times during the school year, the beginning of the school year, 3 months after the beginning, and then 6 months after the beginning. But we actually encourage you to do it more often because more frequent direct certification efforts are to your benefit. The SFA must notify the household about eligibility established through direct certification. The notification includes the child is eligible for benefits, that there's no further application is necessary, an explanation of extended eligibility on and how to notify the LEA of any additional children in the household not listed on the notification, and also how to notify the LEA if free benefits are not wanted. So all of that is a part of your DC letter that you would send out to households. SFAs must ensure that all households receive either a direct certification notification or an application. Households determined eligible through DC must be notified in writing of their child's eligibility. So it's not something you tell them, it's something you provide with that letter, and no application is required. All right, record retention. We've gotten a couple of questions as far as how long do we have to keep this information. So we're going to provide guidance on how long to keep the documentation for eligibility. All free and reduced price applications, including applications from households denied benefits, must be kept on file for a minimum of 3 years after the final claim is submitted for the fiscal year to which they pertain. Additional documentation such as notices of adverse action must also be retained if these show changes made to eligibility status during the school year. Any application that was disregarded because all children in the household were determined categorically eligible through direct certification must be retained, and the date of disregard must be documented. So we keep everything for 3 years plus the current year. Applications may be maintained at the school at a central location. And additionally, a list of eligible children by type must be maintained at the school. So if you want to keep the applications, you can keep them centralized, you can keep them at the school, but the list of the eligible children should be kept at the school. And if an SFA maintains application at a central location, applications must be readily retrievable by individual schools. LEAs must ensure that any changes in eligibility status and transfers in and out of the schools are accurately and promptly recorded on each school list, that adequate documentation for each transfer or change is retained within the district or the school for 3 years. Files must be kept longer if they're required by an audit, and these files should be maintained until the audit is resolved. For CEP retention, SFAs and schools operating CEP must retain records used in the development of the identified student percentage during the entire period of the CEP. during the entire period that CEP is in effect. This includes records for the initial approval year and all records from the year any updates are made to the ISP. So make sure you keep that information and you want to retain it for 3 years after submission of the final claim for reimbursement. So we always say 3 years plus current. Maintain your documentation so that if ever there is a question, you can reference your documentation. And in such cases where there is an audit, then you want to keep it even if it's even longer. You want to keep it even longer until the audit is resolved. Similarly, for direct certification documents, you must keep documentation for direct certification on file for a minimum of 3 years after submission of the final claim for reimbursement. For the fiscal year to which the records apply, documentation, again, that's part of an audit, has to be maintained as long as the audit is open, even if it's past the 3 years, and it has to be accessible until the audit is resolved. It can be kept at the school or a central location. If it's at a central location, we have to be able to access it at the school. And also you want to maintain a list of eligible children at the school as well. Just because a program is approved to receive free and reduced eligibility information does not authorize the release of free and reduced information. There must still be a need to know as far as why they're requesting the information. So what you want to do before releasing any free and reduced application information, you want to look at the section in the eligibility manual entitled Confidentiality and Disclosure. Prior to releasing any free and reduced eligibility information, a memorandum of agreement must be obtained. The state agency enters into MOAs for the LEA. So if you have a question about an MOA, reach out to your school nutrition consultant and we can let you know if one is in place. An MOA is not required for federal, state, or local agencies evaluating or reviewing the school nutrition program, such as local audits, school nutrition consultants, or comptroller generals. Be aware also, you can be fined up to $1,000 or in prison for 1 year or both for publishing, disclosing, or making known in any manner or any extent that's not authorized by federal law any eligibility information. I want to thank you so much for participating in the Determining Eligibility webinar. This is our non-discrimination statement. Make sure that yours is current as of December the 9th, 2022. I know I'm crossing over with topics, but no, we have not received the And Justice for All posters, but once we receive them, we will provide that to you. I want to again thank you for participating in this webinar. We ask that you please complete the evaluation so that you can receive your continuing education credits. We want to know the good, the bad, the ugly. Was the presentation helpful? Are there any suggestions? If so, please feel free to share that information so that we can make sure that what we provide to you is what you need and that is to the absolute best of our ability and that is helpful to you. So again, we ask that you please complete the evaluation so that you can receive your course credit. And I hope everybody has already aimed your, okay, Donna has posted it in the chat, or you can just point your phone at the QR code, take a picture, and it'll go into your phone, and you can go ahead and complete the evaluation so that you can get credit for this course. Again, thank you for participating in today's presentation. If you have any questions, please reach out to your school nutrition consultant or you can reach out to myself. My name is Jacqueline McGowan. I am the compliance specialist and it has been a pleasure speaking to you on this morning about eligibility. If you have any questions, let us know. Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, Jacqueline, can you go back to the evaluation screen and leave that up for just a couple of minutes?
I sure can.
So we'll give everybody time to acquire that information with your phones if you need to, and then we'll close out. If anyone has any difficulty accessing the evaluation, please send me a quick email or you can just respond in the chat and I will work with you to get that fixed. Okay, looks like the evaluation is coming in pretty quickly, so I don't think anybody's having any problems. Is there anyone, if you could just in the chat, just let us know if there anyone that's having any problems or has not gotten the information for the evaluation yet. And we will make this available at any time, so I just want to make sure everybody gets it before they leave the presentation.
If there's anybody still on, I did see a couple of questions pop up. If
Mhm.
there is an email associated with our reply to the questions, I don't know, Donna, is there generally email associated connected to the question or
The, yes, there's a name associated with the question, so we should have the email.
okay. Lisa, you can just pick one school for your evaluation.
Emily Needham. I think you put Needham where you should should have put the SFA. So your certificate is only going to have your first name on it. If you could re-enter the evaluation so that you can do that one more time and put Emily Needham in where it says enter your first and last name. That way your certificate will have your first and last name on it. Okay, it looks like Emily is already off. I'll send her an email. Okay, Jacqueline, so far we're up to 45 people have already completed and submitted the evaluation. So I think, where can I get the SFA School District's agreement number? Larissa, what SFA are you with? Onslow? Onslow, I'll tell you pretty quickly, unless Jacqueline, you know it off the top of your head.
No, not yet. Hadn't learned all of them yet.
Onslow is 670. New Hanover County is 650. Larissa, you said Onslow, that's 670. Okay, so we have 52 attendees still on the call. We have 54 evaluations completed, so I think um, we're pretty much done. So if anyone is here and you had, like I said, if you have any difficulty accessing the evaluation, just send me a quick email message or call me and I will help you out. But I think it's working for everybody. All right, very good. So, Jacqueline, if you'd like to, you may conclude the presentation one more time. I'm sorry, and we
All
will
right.
close out.
Okay, everybody have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.